Welcome back. Chapter 3, Neuroscience and Behavior. Interesting stuff. So, there are approximately 100 billion nerve cells in your brain that perform a variety of tasks that allow you to function as a human being, right? All of your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, they come from the cells in your brain that take in information from around you and produce some kind of output, right? Trillions of times a day, our brain does this for us. The cells that help do this in our brains are called neurons, right? And neurons are in the nervous system. There's the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and it allows you to communicate with the environment around you, with people and with the stimulus that is around you every day. So neurons, right? They communicate. Neurons communicate in your brain and it performs information processing tasks. A neuron is made up of 3 different parts. There's the cell body, the dendrites, and the axon. Okay, neurons don't actually even touch one another. There's a small little space between neurons called the synaptic space, and that helps the neurotransmitters fly back and forth and help communicate between neurons. We're going to learn all about that in this chapter. Okay, there are types of neurons too, all different types. There's sensory neurons, right? Receiving information from the external world through your senses. And then there's motor neurons. They carry signals through your spinal cord that help produce movement in your body. And then there's interneurons. And those are connected sensory neurons, motor neurons, and other neurons, right? They connect all of those together. Like the flow of electricity when you turn a light switch on and off, well, it's the same thing. There's a thing called action potential, right? So it's all or none. It's either on or off. Either the switch is turned on or it's dark. Same thing. Either there's electrical stimulation in the neuron or it's not. There's none, right? So what are neurotransmitters? We've heard about those before, right? You've heard the term neurotransmitter. Well, those are chemicals in the brain that transmit information across that little synaptic space to receiving dendrites in the neurons, right? So there's the neurons and there's that little space. Neurotransmitters help the neurons communicate. They're the chemicals that fly between the neurons, between that little space, and they attach to the dendrites that are at the tips of each neuron, right? And help the neurons communicate with each other. And there's all kinds of neurotransmitters too. There's acetylcholine, dopamine, glutamate, norepinephrine, and endorphins. And we'll learn all about those in the chapters as well. There are also things called agonists and antagonists. And these are the medications we use, right? When we talk about prescription drugs or prescription medication for mental illnesses, for instance. Well, agonists, those are the drugs that increase the action of a neurotransmitter. Antagonists block the function of a transmitter, okay? Now we're talking about the nervous system here. The nervous system is made up of the spinal cord, and it's in 4 main sections, and each controls a different part of your body. Damage higher to the spinal cord usually means there's going to be greater impairment for that individual. And the central nervous system is made up of the brain stem and your spinal cord. This is the first actual major body system that takes form in an embryo when a fetus is developing. Within the 3rd week of fertilization, your central nervous system begins to form. During the 5th week, the front of your brain and the back of your brain differentiate into subdivisions. That's already in the 7th week of fertilization. And then the forebrain expands, right? The rest of your brain begins to develop in your body after that. So let's talk about the hindbrain, right? We have the back of the brain, medulla, reticular formation, cerebellum, pons, right? Those help wake you, regulate sleep, arousal, relays information to the rest of your brain. The midbrain, sits in the middle on top of your head, right? There's two structures in your midbrain, the tectum and the tegmentum. We'll learn about those too, and what those do. Then there's the forebrain, right here, right in the front. That is the highest level of the brain. It controls complex cognitive, emotional, sensory, and motor functions. And then we have the endocrine system, right? That's a network of glands in your body. Glands, and it secretes into the bloodstream a lot of chemical messages known as hormones. So endocrines control your hormones. Okay, that regulates metabolism, growth, sexual development, things like that. Then we have the master gland. That's the pituitary gland, right? That's also a hormone producing system. And that helps regulate functions of the rest of the glands in your system. Your brain is very plastic, we call it. There's brain plasticity. That just means that it has the ability to grow, shrink and grow, and you can learn new things over time, right? There's that whole saying that an old dog can't learn new tricks. That's not true. You can always learn more. Your brain is very, it's incredibly powerful, and it can heal itself, and it can do the most amazing things that you wouldn't even imagine. But genes also play a role, right? It tells you it maps out for you sort of like what you could be predisposed to, what your mom and dad are sharing with you from their side, of your DNA system, and it sort of controls how things are going to manifest, right? How your DNA will manifest in you. Also, don't forget about nurture, right? That has a big influence in how we behave in the world, and the information we receive from the environment around us certainly influences who we become. The genes are basically the biological map of who we are. Okay, so a lot of information. That's it in a nutshell. We will be back for chapter 4 next time. Have a wonderful afternoon.